This is Michael Madden. I'm a realtor with Remax Real Estate over at Remax Unlimited in Whitehall, Pennsylvania. I'm sitting here with Cara Bedford, one of my good friends. She's a cheddarhead. Is that what you call her?
I am. I'm a cheesehead. Go Pack Go! Woo!
Yeah, so she regularly attends our business networking events at the Lehigh Valley Elite Network. So we're kind of doing a one-on-one. And one of the things that I want to kind of portray in this video is why you should be doing one-on-ones and what the purpose is. Because I think there's a lot of people that go to networking events and don't really get good results. And I see it quite often. I've been doing this for about 5 years now, and I've seen it all pretty much. And one of the big things I think challenges is that how do you turn a 30-second commercial into a new account and get somebody to actually use your services and things like that. So why don't we start by explaining who you are, what your background is, and then we'll go from there.
Okay. Hi, I'm Cara Bedford, and I'm with Paychex. So my previous, again, come from Wisconsin, been living in Wisconsin most of my life, moved out to PA about 6 years ago, and sold insurance for 14 and a half years and stumbled upon the opportunity with Paychex. And what Paychex does is we help small businesses with tax issues. There's lots of legislation that's changing. It's going to change a lot with the upcoming election. So we help small business owners navigate change in legislation, taxes. We help them file their quarterlies, maintain compliance with the Department of Labor, IRS, state. So that's our primary function. We help businesses from the point of hiring, firing employees, HR services, insurance from a workers' comp standpoint, and then again navigating taxes and legislation and compliance. So that's more or less what we do.
Yeah, and touching upon that, I would tell you just through these meetings and events I have run, a lot of people will start off networking and they get to the point where they need to hire an employee. And a lot of people, I see the mistakes where they're paying them as subcontractors, thinking that, I'm not going to pay the payroll taxes and all that, and all of a sudden the IRS or the Department of Labor comes knocking on your door saying, guess what? They're an employee, they're not a subcontractor, you owe us back taxes and things like that. So if you can kind of touch upon that, because I think there are a lot of businesses right now that fall into the trap of they are paying people as subcontractors versus employees, and maybe some of the distinctions on how that works out.
Absolutely. There is no gray area when it comes to 1099s and W-2s. A lot of businesses, what they consider subcontract what should be an employee just to avoid having to pay the employment tax that an employer has to pay.
Right.
So it's much easier to 1099 at the end of the year and let the employee pay both sides of the taxes, and they avoid all of that. They also avoid the side of workers' comp, which is an expense to a business. They avoid a lot of the liability that a business owner can have when it comes to safety and OSHA compliance.
Right.
So a lot of businesses do 1099. Now the IRS is cracking down, and so is the Department of Labor. And what they look at is if you actually go to the IRS website, there is a link that shows you the 20-point checklist that is a requirement that each business owner has to follow when it comes to identifying a true 1099 employee. And that many of the criteria are they have to have a signed contract, they have to set their own schedule. They can't use any of the resources that business has. So for example, tools, anything like that, the independent contractor has to come in with their own tools. They have to advertise their services to the general public. So it can't be a 1099 who works for A and Z company and that's 90% of what they do. That is not a true 1099. I actually had a client recently who got in trouble for this exact thing. He was paying a buddy cash under the table, and he was helping him out about 40 hours a week, and the guy was collecting unemployment. And the Department of Labor was notified by a disgruntled girlfriend or a friend or who knows who actually tipped off the Department of Labor. But the business owner is now in trouble for paying that person cash. They've got to actually go back and look at wages, pay all back taxes plus interest and penalties. So it's most beneficial to a business from a standpoint of legally staying compliant, but it's not worth the taxes, the fines, all the issues that they're going to have to deal with. And now they're under the radar when it comes to the IRS and the Department of Labor.
Oh, yeah.
Stay compliant, just do the right thing. It's not the most cost-effective thing for a business owner, but at the end of the day, it will be the most cost-effective because they are going to be found out. It will just be a matter of time.
And then the other issue too is this Affordable Care Act and some of the changes there. And I don't think people realize it's just such a moving moving target, and the law isn't that clear.
Yes, absolutely.
And
the legislation, the change in the ACA, the legislation's 1,100 pages. So, and it affects every business owner. Some people are like, well, if I have less than 50 full-time equivalents, it doesn't affect me. That is not true. The legislation is 1,100 pages long. So for a business owner, even a small business owner with 1 or 2 employees, for them to navigate how that legislation affects them and what impact it has on them, try reading 1,100 pages of gibberish that's really difficult to understand.
Right.
Most lawyers don't understand it. I guarantee most CPAs don't understand it. You need a person who, like a payroll company like Paychex, to help you navigate through that.
Yeah, and I think the advantage of a service like Paychex is they have thousands and tens of thousands of accounts, so they can really kind of see in a broader thing of what the marketplace is doing.
Absolutely.
They can kind of see the trends of what's going on and what the government's cracking down on or whatever. The other thing, too, is the headaches of making sure you get your 1099s out, your W-2s, all that kind of stuff in time.
Absolutely.
And I think a lot of people don't realize if you're worried about how to do payroll at the end of your day, you're not focusing on growing your business. And I see that quite often where people, they're trying to do it all. But one of the things you shouldn't be doing is payroll, because it's a very complex, and even you can ask accountants, that's one of the headaches that they're kind of like, whoa, that's somebody else.
I don't want to touch it. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
Exactly. Well, and we find that 90% of new businesses, when they open their doors, 90% of their time is spent on revenue generation. And then as they grow and as they develop and as they hire employees, they find that it flips. 90% of their time is spent on administrative tasks. And it's not just payroll. Payroll's a big part of it. But you're looking at, doing basic accounting, doing basic inventory, all of that. So instead of generating revenue, they're spending time doing administrative tasks. And if you can find ways, and reasonable, cost-effective ways, to be able to deter some of those administrative tasks and pass it on and outsource it to somebody else, do it. It will be worth it, so that you can start generating more revenue for your business instead of spending time doing tasks
I agree.
that don't do anything for you.
And the thing is, too, sitting to figure out the changes alone.
Exactly.
So you were talking a little bit before about hooking up with commercial realtors and why that's important to you. Why don't you kind of touch upon why that is a good referral source for you?
Absolutely. Commercial insurance agents, commercial real estate agents are a really good source for me, being that we see the same people. So if I'm out there and I'm talking to small business owners, part of my job is to go out in the community and not only network. That is a big part of what I do, but I knock on doors. The old school day of knocking on doors is still there. And as I meet business owners, I want to be able to refer out business to the same people that want to see the same business owners I'm getting in front of. So instead of, let's coordinate efforts, instead of me going out and doing the same thing, talking to the same people, we could be talking them together, join forces, and be a lot more effective that way. Plus, I think business owners, they're looking for insurance. They're looking for places to, if they're growing and they're developing, they want to have a new location. So would they feel that you'd be much more of a professional resource to them if you can find avenues for them that's much easier than them having to go out and find it themselves? They can come to you and you're like the one-stop shop for being able to be a resource for everything. So.
And what are your thoughts of, one of the things I really like about Cara is that she embraces social media as a way to strategize and, increase your networking capabilities.
Absolutely, yep.
So if you could just talk about maybe how the Lehigh Valley Elite is kind of different as far as using social media and using that in a way to get your name out in front of a much broader audience.
Sure. Before I met Michael Madden, I didn't see so much the value in doing social media. Times are changing. It's the generation. The millennials use social media more than ever. It is a great way to get in front of thousands of people that there isn't any other avenue to do that. When I met Michael Madden, he helped me generate my Facebook page. And separate from, you can have your personal Facebook page, but you'll need to have a business Facebook page. LinkedIn is extremely important to get in front of people, and being able to reach out to those individuals and gain partnerships. I think, at the end of the day, networking is extremely important, and the way to get in front of more people to find ways to generate a partnership, I think LinkedIn and Facebook has done a tremendous job for me in that aspect.
And it's credibility. It really is. I mean,
Absolutely.
you'd be surprised. I was talking to Josh yesterday, who is a vice president of American Bank. He does all the commercial lending, and then part of the loan process is they go on LinkedIn to see, who your contacts are. And they really, and people, I think, underestimate how people, evaluate whether they're going to give you a phone call or not based on what shows up in a Google search.
Well, and not only that, but like I could knock on 100 doors and meet 100 business owners, or they might not even be available. So I knock on 100 doors and I only meet 75 business owners because they're busy and they should be out there doing whatever it is that generates revenue for them. So it's much easier to be able to connect with more people and spend less effort. Like you have to work twice as hard to knock on doors to meet people when you can just go on the internet and use LinkedIn and Facebook and get in front of more people. And it's a warmer welcome to them too. Because I'm like, oh, I know Michael Madden. I see that you're friends with Michael Madden. I just wanted to reach out to you. It's a friendlier, way to be able to reach out to that individual, and they're a little bit more responsive than if you were unexpectedly knocking on their door and interrupting their day.
Yeah, and you just recently helped a friend of mine, Len, which is right next door to us over here. He owns Soccer Magic. If you can kind of touch upon what you did for him and how, because he's raving about you. I'm getting texts on my phone like, oh, she was great,
Yeah. No, Len actually was lucky enough. I was meeting Michael Madden for a one-on-one, and again, the importance of social media is great, but if you don't use follow-up, I mean, if you meet somebody and then you try to connect with them, you make a time to meet, and you meet them once, and then you never do a follow-up after that, you never do a one-to-one, you really never get to know their business and how you can help each other, it's not going to be effective. But I was meeting Michael for a one-on-one, and Len happened to be a regular at the local Panera, and
that's it.
And Michael introduced me to him, and he was like, yeah, please come on by and tell me a little bit about your services. And he was using a competitor, and I'm not going to name any names, but he did see the value of what we brought, but I would never have had that opportunity if I wasn't doing my one-on-one, and if I wasn't out there again in the community, putting my face out there. So.
But here's the great thing: she's making me look good.
Ah!
No, but honestly, I mean, I think a lot of people don't realize that when you help somebody else out.
Yep.
And I felt comfortable doing that because I knew you would follow up.
Absolutely.
One of the things I think a lot of people underestimate is like when I'm doing networking events. The unfortunate thing for us sometimes is that we only do ours once a month. So if you miss a meeting, people don't see you for 8 weeks.
Exactly.
And I actually see the results of that because I'm at every single meeting. But the reality is people forget who you are.
Absolutely.
And in their mind, you are portraying to them sometimes that you're unreliable.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're missing a meeting because, hey, I didn't make it today. Who's going to do business with you if you think that way?
Absolutely. And another thing to look about when I talked about the one-on-ones and the importance of that is that when you go to a networking event, and those individuals who've never been to one maybe don't understand this, but when you do go to one, you have 20, 30 people sitting in a room, and they have 30 seconds to make their point, and that's not a lot of time. And again, if you're not a regular and you're not putting yourself out there and telling people what you do, a little bit more in a more detail than that 30-second commercial. But if you don't attend on a regular basis, nobody's going to remember that 30-second commercial. It means more when you actually sit down and find out more about how a person got to where they are, why they do what they do, find out the value in what they do, more than 30 seconds. And I think that's the importance of doing the one-on-one.
Yeah.
I mean, go to the networking events, that's also important. Do your 30 seconds and put your face out there. But really follow through with it. I think follow through is the most important part when it comes to networking.
Well, she's really proof of how to network because, she'll meet with a lot of people that wouldn't necessarily hire her for payroll services.
Absolutely.
But she understands the value of getting in front of them and proving to them that you're a reliable person because somebody knows somebody that needs your services.
Absolutely.
And that's really the true thing about networking because of what I do with social media, I think there are a lot of people out there that misinterpret, my intentions, and they'll come to a meeting, I'll splash them all over the internet, and they think, they get their 15 seconds of fame,
Exactly.
and they think that's going to change their results, and that's really not how it works.
Absolutely.
Networking is networking. All social media does is allow you to actually, even with the photographs that I take, I mean, the reason why we dominate the Google searches and all the things out there, it's because of the photographs. But if you don't identify yourself in the photographs and what you do, it really has no value.
Absolutely.
And I see that a lot. And, one of the challenges, like even on social media, is the way you share information. Like we did some things with her Paychex website, download it and upload it to her Facebook page. So when she's sharing that information to a general audience on Facebook, that information's going back to her.
Right.
Where I see it, where a lot of people would just go online, maybe share a video online, and all the focus goes right to the corporate website, where all the leads get distributed to all the other sales reps.
Exactly.
And it's really controlling the flow of information that really makes a huge difference, especially online.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
So in closing, how do people get a hold of you, and then is there any cost to you evaluating their business?
No, there's absolutely no cost and no obligation. We do have a great promotion going on for the end of the year. We have free W-2s and 1 month free of trying out our service. So if you're not happy, and there's no contract to be signed, so there's no termination fee if you're not happy for any reason. That first month you can try us out and then get free W-2s at the end of the year. You can get a hold of me, and the best way to get a hold of me is my cell, which is 920-217-2279, or you can look me up under LinkedIn. Again, it's Cara Bedford, and then same, I have a Facebook page as well. So. And
then what is too small for you? Just so for the folks that are out there that are, they're one person and they're thinking of hiring somebody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that too small for your?
There is never anybody too small. I mean, you have to have one person on payroll, and a lot of times businesses now, due to the increase in tax benefits, a lot of small business owners who own their own business go on payroll as an S. They're being taxed as an S corporation, so they can go on payroll, and there's a tax benefit for that. So even if the owner is the only person on payroll, we can still help. So if you pay payroll tax at all, that's the right size business for us.
And there's something I just thought of that I think is a headache, or a perceived headache.
Yes.
If somebody has 25 employees and they want to transition over to Paychex, what is that process? How do you streamline that so people don't like, oh my God, I would love to do it, but I don't want to go through the headache
Absolutely.
of transferring all these files?
And that's a misunderstanding a lot of people have.
No, I know it is, and I wanted to touch upon that.
Yeah, no, it's really simple. I mean, if you're currently using a payroll service, it is super simple. There's a simple checklist. It takes honestly, it takes no time out of the business owner, because we'll help them gather reports. If they're coming from a CPA or they're doing it in-house, it's a little bit more technical. We have to generate some of these reports if they don't have the reports available. But again, I mean, we get so involved as the business owner would want us to be, to help make that transition super simple. So for example, if a business owner wants us to run their next payroll, we only realistically need about 4 days to be able to load the information from the time that we gather the information to actually giving you that first paycheck. It's 4 days turnaround time. So
and then let's say somebody is saying, well, I'll start it next year. Mm-hmm. What is your counter to that, or does it really matter?
There's simplicity to doing it January 1st. There's no previous wages, so it makes it easier for a business owner when it comes to being able to have any outstanding tax liability. They don't have any, because it starts again from zero in January 1st. The benefit to doing it before January 1st is if somebody's been making the deposits for your taxes, it's really not a lot of tax liability. You shouldn't have a lot sitting out there. So there's not going to be a lot of that the business owner is going to have to worry about when it comes to previous wages and tax liability. And a lot of the promotions that payroll services are offering, including Paychex, happens only towards the end of the year, but not starting January 1st. So they're trying to drum up some business for fourth quarter, I apologize. So they've got a lot of promotions, like special pricing, 1 month free W-2s. So from a cost standpoint, it's beneficial to do it on fourth quarter versus January 1st.
Okay, I don't want to make this video too long so people don't do it. So if you just reiterate your contact information and I'll do it.
Again, Cara Bedford at Paychex, 920-217-2279. You can look me up in LinkedIn and on Facebook as well.
Yes, and Michael Madden, my website address is michaelmadden.realtor or LehighValleyEliteRealEstate.com. If you're interested in attending one of our events, there's no cost or fees. The schedule is posted at www.LehighValleyEliteNetwork.com, or do a Google search on social media, business networking, business, whatever you're going to do, just attach Lehigh Valley to it. And it's going to show up at the top of the page.
And I'm speaking on Thursday's event, so I'd absolutely love for you guys all to come.
Very good. All right,
thank you.
Thank you.